Hey everybody, I'm Christopher Green. You're watching AMTV, Alternative Media Television. Thank you so much for tuning in. God bless all of you. This story just keeps on unraveling. Again, this is the sloppiest cover-up I've ever seen. Worse than anything I've ever seen, ever, in doing this. For over 10 years now, and we just keep putting out a series of videos. I've already done an exclusive breakdown on Eric Paddock, the brother, it's just the most bizarre interview I've ever seen. Just watch that interview and you will be convinced this is a government cover-up, pre-planned, coordinated attack. I've been tweeting this on Twitter. Now, I don't know if all of you have seen the clip where Eric actually says none of this makes sense. It's almost like Men in Black put a bug on his brother Steven's shoulder and he was MK Ultra'd. That's what he's making the reference to. It's almost like the Men in Black put a bug on his shoulder. And I don't think enough people have seen this because it speaks for itself. This is the very definition of, watch for yourself here. I'm gonna play this clip for you. This is the brother.
It's you know, the bug in Men in Black. It's you know, the bug in Men in Black put on a Steve suit and went and did this. I mean, there's no other rationalizations. It's you know, the bug in Men in Black put on a Steve suit and went and did this. I mean, there's no other rationalizations. It's you know, the bug in Men in Black put on a Steve suit and went and did this.
Okay.
I mean,
so I get it. It's tough to wrap your head around. It's tough to grasp, especially for newcomers, to understand that this stuff exists. Now, keep in mind, his father was on the FBI's top 10 most wanted list for years, a professional bank robber who broke out of federal prison and was a machine gun wielding hardened criminal who was eventually caught. This is the prototype of the type of criminal and individual that the FBI and US intelligence would want as an informant. Prototype example. Perfect example of somebody that they would flip so that they could cut a deal, get more information and potentially bring more people down. Now, that's not far-fetched at all, okay? Steven, the alleged shooter and killer, only worked for government contractors, right? He worked for one of the largest defense contractors in the country, Lockheed Martin. This whole family is intertwined with yours truly, the US federal government and the CIA and the FBI and intelligence assets here in the United States. Now, we already know what the motive is. Like, if you've been watching this far, you know the motive is gun control. You know that the motive is to turn this country into a maximum security prison. You know that the motive is to divide and conquer the masses. Start a civil war in this country. You know that if you've been studying it enough. And I know for a lot of people it's far-fetched. I start talking about numerology and things like 322 and the reference of 32. And by the way, the video we put out on that's a reference to 32. That's symbolic. Skull and bones. Look it up for yourself. In fact, I tweeted this. Follow me on Twitter if you haven't already. Please watch this video here, which I posted on 3/22 of this year, titled London Terror, Skull and Bones, Blood Sacrifice. 3/22. This was on March 3/22. For those of you that remember, there was a terror attack in London on that day. It's another perfect example, and I break it down in excruciating detail what it all means and what this demonic symbolism is. Guys, seriously, I understand that it's hard for some people to wrap your head around this. I get it. I understand. I even commented. There's a reason why I take people through baby steps, and that's not being condescending, because I understand myself. I know what it's like to wake up to the truth. I understand how it shakes your world. It's kind of like shaking a tree. You just You don't want to believe it. You don't want to believe that the government would do these types of heinous acts. You don't want to believe that your government would sacrifice civilian lives. You don't want to believe that they would lie to you. You want to feel safe. You want to feel taken care of. I mean, so do I. That's like a natural inclination as a human being, that people are looking out for you. But the reality is that's very far from the truth. Good and evil exists in our world. We see it every day. These are ritual sacrifices that we're witnessing. We saw in London on 322, and I believe, in my humble opinion, we just saw it in Las Vegas on the 32nd floor. Even the brother here, Eric, his address, 32. Yes, there's a 0 at the end. I know that, but it's 32. It's all symbolic in front of a Masonic black pyramid temple of darkness. I mean, this stuff is real. This is the darkness that pervades a fallen world. This is our reality. And still, if you're still on the fence and you're still, I can't grab my hands around it, Christopher. You know, I'm not a Christian. I just don't believe this here. I just can't believe it. The government wouldn't do this. No, they want to do it. Evil men, wicked men don't rule the world. They're not here to hurt us. They would never sacrifice American lives. Well, let me show you a little bit more evidence. In fact, I tried to see it through my own eyes. If I was learning this stuff for the first time, how would I go about it? What would I look up? One easy thing you can do is just do a search on Start Page, Google, whatever you want to use, and search MK Ultra. One of the first things you'll pull up is the Central Intelligence Agency itself. Just go over to CIA.gov right now. Again, don't believe me. I don't even want you to. Don't take my word for anything. Investigate for yourself. If you can refute anything I've said, then please do. Now let me ask you another question. If we're just fake news, even though that was made up by the radical left because they want to shut us up, if we were just fake news, then why not just let us speak freely, right? Why am I censored all the time? Why are all my videos behind a black, dark wall? Why wouldn't they just let me speak? I mean, hey, if it's fake, no one would believe it, right? But see, that's not the case. We're receiving millions and millions and millions and millions of views, and we're rocking the establishment. Not just us, because it has nothing to do with me at all. It has everything to do with right versus wrong, good versus evil, light and truth versus darkness. I talked about this yesterday. I serve no other but Jesus, and I kneel for no other. And I do my best every day humbly to try to walk in Christ. But I'm going to expose what I know. I'm going to shine a giant light on the truth when I know it. Okay, it's my duty to do that. And it's not going to be received well from everybody. Just like Jesus' message wasn't received well. A lot of people scoffed at him. And eventually what'd they do? They hung him out to dry and they crucified him. And he died for our sins. So I get it. I understand it. I know it's tough for some people. A lot of people. They can't believe it. A good starting point, again, go to the CIA's website itself and investigate the research. I mean, here are some of the basic search results. MK Ultra mind control experiments. MK Ultra mind control experiments. Lawsuit, because lawsuits were filed, forces CIA confession on MK Ultra. This is not a conspiracy, guys. CIA.gov. This is the Central Intelligence Agency. They make stuff up all the time. Of course there's undercover government agents. Of course there's patsies. Of course there's things you don't know about. Of course there's a dark state, a deep state. Look at what's happening to Trump. Why do you think his entire administration has virtually been obliterated? Everyone's gone down a giant black trap door. Why do you think the mainstream media lied to you? Said he'd never get elected. Hillary was a shoo-in, 80% chance to win, they said. Yeah, like that's not fake news. They didn't even think he could become the GOP nomination. Lies, 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 lies. Again, if what I'm saying isn't the truth, then refute it. See, they won't do that. They won't do that. No, what they'll do is censor it. They'll backdoor it. Proof is in the pudding. Actions speak louder than words. Because if you could refute what I'm saying, for case in point, for example, here at MK Ultra, mind control, these experiments, these kinds of things, they would, but they can't. See, most Americans won't do any research at all. They won't read for themselves. So this is a great starting point. It gives you all kinds of history, and you can download these PDFs yourself. Read through them. I'm just reading here, almost like it's for the first time. MK Ultra is not the name of a new James Bond movie. It is or was the code word for a secret CIA project. This is the CIA telling you this, where people were used in mind control experiments. And guess what Stephen was on? A mind control substance known as lithium, known to increase radical, aggressive, violent behavior. Mind control experiments that left them emotionally crippled for life. MK Ultra consisted, so they did that too, they crippled people for life, ain't that nice? MK Ultra consisted of more than 130 research programs which took place in prisons, hospitals, and universities all over the United States. Ain't that nice? Tonight we'll look at subproject number 68, an experiment conducted in Canada. CIA does not deny that these experiments took place. And then it just goes on, and you can pull up a lot of these documents for yourself. I'm not going to handhold on everything. I mean, you've got to read for yourself. You've got to pick up the word. You've got to read for yourself to understand the truth, to understand this war that we're fighting, the spiritual war, light versus darkness. Now, Chad did an excellent video just moments ago that we aired, titled MK Ultra Government Sleeper Cell Executed Las Vegas Massacre. This guy only worked for government contractors, only worked for them. It makes perfect sense that not only his father was an informant, but the entire family is involved. Why do you think Stephen was so mysterious? Had no social media presence. Nobody knew. Nobody even ever saw. Because he's working for them. He's an undercover agent, more than likely. He works for the deep state. You know what the motive is? Gun control, civil war, divide and conquer, ritual sacrifice. We see it again and again. Now, if you don't believe me and you only trust the mainstream media and the movies and a great movie to watch, I would encourage you, go rent, or you can probably find it on Netflix or something, Goodfellas. Watch the movie. It's about the mob and how they flip one of the main characters so that they can basically take down the rest of the kingpins, and they flip him as an informant. Based on a real, true-to-life story, by the way. So if you don't believe me and you don't believe the CIA in their own words, because they're not denying it, there's a bunch of declassified reports. I just showed you some of them. That's just like this much of it. Well, then go watch a movie based on real life. Goodfellas. You can get some popcorn and entertain yourself. And again, that's based on reality too. Stephen's father was a prototype of somebody the FBI would flip. This guy was a elite criminal. They could barely catch him. So of course, when you find somebody like that, and even Eric, the brother, giving his bizarre interview, says that Stephen is an evil genius. Well, I'm assuming the apple don't fall far from the tree. Dad was probably too. Why do you think the CIA, FBI, intelligence agencies will want to get to know him really well? Why do you think they would cut a deal with him? I mean, this is just logic. It makes perfect sense. And in his own words, even if you believe Brother Eric's story, which I don't at all. I don't. I did a full breakdown, which I can't release to the public. There's a private link. You can find it at amtvmedia.com and watch it. We've had thousands of people watch it, but I can't release it to the public. Even if you think the Brother Eric is just a bumbling buffoon, then just listen to his own words, and I'll close with that.
The bug in Men in Black put on a Steve suit and went and did this. I mean, there's no other rationalizations. It's, the bug in Men in Black put on a Steve suit and went and did this. I mean, there's no other rationalizations. It's, the bug in Men in Black put on a Steve suit and went and did this. I mean, there's no other There's no other rationalization. It's the bug in Men in Black put on a Steve suit and went and did this.